Hey there and welcome to Duck Detective The Secret Salami. My name is Pete, and yes, this is the game I decided to complete for video number 1000 on the channel. The premise is swiftly explained. Made by Happy Broccoli Games, an indie studio from Berlin, Germany, we play as the titular duck detective, down on his luck but always on the case, this time searching for answers in a sinister sausage-based conspiracy. We'll be investigating clues and interviewing suspects. The game is actually fully voice-acted to put together the information needed to crack the case, and in true completionist fashion, we will also unlock all of the game's achievements in the process. Also, there's a button that can make the detective quack. Enough said, I think. Let's get to it. We'll play on detective mode, where the case is a little harder to solve, and make no mistake about it, despite her looking like a relaxed point-and-click adventure, this game can be properly difficult, especially in its later stages, but for now we start things off simple.
Life wasn't easy. I was a freshly divorced duck, not able to pay next month's rent. Not that I had paid for it this month yet. My brain felt foggy, and I was trying to remember, where did all my money go? I had to retrace last night's steps.
So here we are. The game quickly introduces us to its core mechanic, deductions. This is how we will solve our cases, by finding clues from interacting with the people and objects around us. However, the game will not simply put these clues together for us automatically. We will still need to do the detective work and connect the dots ourselves, and in some cases this will require paying extremely close attention. We solve a deduction by manually entering clue words. Our first one here serves as the game's tutorial, if you will. Someone spent his or her last money on something for someone. And it is now up to us to fill in the blanks, so let's get to it and gather some clues. We start things off inside the Duck Detective's rundown apartment. Objects that we can interact with are marked with a little orange icon. Let's begin with the detective's badge.
I won't be needing this badge anymore. I guess I can keep it as a souvenir. My new job as the Duck Detective isn't going any better, though. Well, if things keep going badly, I could always sell it online.
So, our Duck Detective, former police perhaps, doesn't tell us anything about a recent purchase though, so let's keep looking.
No messages.
Right, nothing on the phone either, but as we keep moving here, we can see that certain objects in the environment can be interacted with. Keep this in mind as we now investigate some papers.
I can't believe Anna actually filed the divorce papers.
So, we get a new name, Anna, and learn that our poor detective is recently divorced, and that is not exactly the only problem he's facing.
Second overdue notice. I wonder at what point they start kicking people out.
Now, this tells us that whatever money was spent was certainly not spent on rent. Let's keep looking to find out what it was used on instead.
I took that photo of her in a secluded tulip field. We spoke for hours under the stars that night. And now, she doesn't even answer my texts.
Right, another memory of a better time. Doesn't really help us solve the small tutorial case though. Perhaps the bread on the mattress here does.
This fresh smell. Oh, sweet, spongy loaf. You keep me safe at night. I have everything I need to solve this now.
Alright, and with that we have now gathered all the clues available in this room. The game also nicely color codes them for us, so in that purple field we can either enter rent, bread or tulips. And I think the picture here is clear. It was clearly the Duck Detective himself who spent his last money, not on rent or tulips, but on bread. Bread for himself, a tiny glimmer of happiness in a dark time for our protagonist. And if we now enter all of these clues correctly, then we can solve our first deduction and unlock the early bird achievement.
Not my proudest moment, but the toast helps me to forget.
Alright, and with the first of 7 achievements unlocked, suddenly the detective's phone rings. Let's answer and find out who's calling.
I'm a different duck now. I haven't had a slice of bread in weeks. You have to believe me! Oh. Yeah, you're speaking to the duck detective. Let's discuss this in person. I'll be there in an hour. I spent more than half of my remaining cash on the bus fare, and here I was, in front of BearBus Office. Some sort of rundown call center. I better crack this case, or I won't even have enough money to make it back home.
Right, looks like our duck detective was just hired by BearBus to solve a case. At the moment, we don't really know who called or what the case actually is, but we wouldn't be a detective if we couldn't find that out.
New bus route starting in August. Visit the scenic mountains of South Sicily. I'd always tell Anna we'd go there one day.
Okay, sounds like BearBus has just opened up a new bus route in August. Maybe we can figure out what month it is in-game to place the timeline here. Before we do though, let's talk to what looks to be a protesting koala.
I'm staying here until I get my money back! BearBus? Huh, more like Scam Bus!
Right, not exactly what I would describe as a happy customer. And of course, as a detective, it is our duty to dig deeper.
You, sound unhappy.
You bet I am! Their stupid buses always arrive late! I came back from a work trip to the west and arrived here at 3 in the morning! And they don't even want to give me a refund.
How much did you pay?
2 schmark. But that's not the point! It's about the principle.
Okay, buses always arriving late. Maybe we can figure out a reason why. For now, the game subtly tells us that we can actually speak to her again, as the icon here is still orange.
I'm so angry!
Okay, so we've got a bus company here whose buses always arrive late and who are still somehow too cheap to pay even a small refund. Honestly, not a great first impression.
This office looks like it'll worsen my depression.
Well, with that, let's head inside. Things can hopefully only get better from here.
I could already tell based on her face that the receptionist was a tough one. She wouldn't make life easy for me. But I had to make my way into the office.
Right, so we have entered BearBus offices. The receptionist here is a giraffe. Before we speak to her though, let's assert dominance and kick over the trash cans. This is actually required for one of the game's 7 achievements.
I'm the duck detective. I'm here to investigate a case.
Okay. Do you work here?
No.
Well, then I can't let you in.
But I've been hired by someone from BearBus.
Who hired you?
I didn't catch their name.
Listen, buddy. You better get out of here, or I'll have to call security.
There's always more to people than you might think. I should take a closer look and figure out what she's about.
So, in case conversation does not get us any further, we are now introduced to a second mechanic. Not only can we speak to people, but we can also inspect them, as well as objects in the environment. So, if we hover the magnifying glass over our giraffe receptionist here, then we can uncover some more clues. For example, that she has a tear in her eye and is sad for some reason. Furthermore, we can also hover over her name tag to uncover a name, at least a last name, Windheimer. And the third and final clue is that she's got a keychain on her phone of a boy band. Turns out, receptionist Windheimer here is a K-pop fan. So perhaps one of her favorite bands just split up. Either way, it's not much to go on for now. Luckily, there are a few more objects in this room that we can inspect closer to. For example, the suggestion box over here. The first note here reads that it's Sophie's birthday next Thursday. That actually gives us 2 clues, the name and the fact that it's someone's birthday. Moving on to the next letter then, it reads that Laura from CS, which could stand for customer service, is way too loud and that someone can hear her keyboard all the way to their desk. So a complaint about someone named Laura, another name to add to the list, likely not the receptionist's name though, she doesn't work in customer service after all. The third message then here reads, I swear to God if someone steals my mug again, I'll end them. Although a mug theft is hopefully not why we have been called here. Either way, for now, let us officially add the name Sophie to our clues list, and that's all the information we can gather from this box.
These are quite mundane. I'm surprised nobody wrote something more scandalous.
Now, with a few first and last names already gathered, the game now reminds us how important it is to piece them together. So far though, when it comes to our giraffe receptionist here, we might not have quite enough information to do that. From her name tag, we know her last name already, Windheimer. We also know that she's probably not named Laura, as she works in customer service. That does not automatically mean though that she's the Sophie mentioned in one of those letters. So let's keep looking around, maybe the calendar on the wall here reveals more. Now, first things first, we want to take note of the fact that it is giraffe-themed. That makes sense, considering the room it hangs in. There is also a small red smiley on this month's page. The month, September, that places us roughly 1 month after the opening of that Salsiccia bus route, and today's date is Thursday. This is interesting, because we read that Sophie's birthday is next Thursday. Could that perhaps be today?
Tomorrow is Friday. Need to remember to collect my dry cleaning. I should be able to deduce her name now.
And indeed, I think we can now safely deduce that receptionist Windheimer's first name is Sophie. At this point, we could simply come to the right conclusion by process of elimination, but the clues are there. We know it's Sophie's birthday on a Thursday, today is Thursday, and the giraffe-themed calendar that likely belongs to her has the month specifically marked. The only question that now remains is, why is she sad? Well, the answer to that will solve our second deduction here, and I think it is obvious at this point. Once again, the differently color-coded words here help us out a little bit, but even without them, this part of the case is still not too difficult to crack. The most likely answer to the puzzle here is that Sophie is feeling sad because nobody has remembered her birthday. So let's enter those final clue words and solve our second deduction.
Aha! That's why she's making such a face. I should try and cheer her up.
And well, let's approach her now to do exactly that.
You're still here?
And here we go. Let us now wish her a happy birthday.
I'm just here to wish you a happy birthday.
How did you know?
Just another one of Duck Detective's great deductions.
Huh? Anyway, that was really nice of you. No one else remembered. Can you believe it? If you know my birthday, you must have a connection to someone here. Here's the keycard to the office.
Alright, and just like that, we have now acquired the office keycard.
You could have just told me you know someone here. Not sure why you acted so weird with all the detective business.
Alright, and with that, we can now finally enter the BearBus main offices, and our real work on this case can begin.
The stained carpets and peeling wallpaper exuded a stench of stale coffee and abandoned dreams. I knew I couldn't stay long, or it would rub off on me.
This is the last straw! Fredderson needs to be fired!
I'll see what I can do. Who are you? Do you have a problem? If you have one, just call our damn hotline.
I'm Eugene McQuacklin, the Duck Detective. A client hired me to investigate a case.
Why didn't you just say so? It's time we put an end to the awful lunch theft. All we need to fire him is some evidence for the upper management. I'll be in my office.
First, I had to find out who works here and what their jobs are. I needed to find my client as well. Thankfully, I remembered the piece of paper I had in my jacket from taking notes during the call.
Right, so this note we can use to figure out who actually called us, but for now that's only one of 2 tasks at hand. We also need to find out the names and jobs of all the people working in this office. Next to Sophie the giraffe at the reception, there's a crocodile, a cat and the bear. The latter seems to have some sort of manager role, but information is still a little thin at this point. The more difficult deduction, meanwhile, will then be this one: who hired us and why? Well, in order to find that out, let's kick over another bin and speak to the cat here.
This is BearBus. How can I help you? This is the 3rd time you're calling. I'm telling you, your ex-wife did not cancel your booking.
She, looks busy.
Right, no talking to her just yet, so let's take a closer look while she takes a call. I think we can clearly place her as a customer service agent, and from what it looks like, she's been up for a while now, her eyes looking properly strained. The energy drink in the pocket of her hoodie here could also explain how she keeps herself awake, and the reason for all of this could then be a strong dedication to her job, indicated by a special headset she wears, a different brand to those issued by the company.
I need to ask you some questions.
No, I'm sorry. You can't take your 12 trombones on the bus. What? Can't you see I'm talking to a customer? It's company policy. Nothing I can do. Goodbye.
Do you know anything about who called me here?
What are you talking about? Listen, I have a million more emails to answer, and there are 50 people in the phone queue. I have worked 10 days in a row, including 3 night shifts, and Manfred still doesn't want to give me a raise! Just leave me in peace!
So, you have no clues for me?
Right, not exactly helpful. Maybe she can tell us more about Sophie though.
What is your relationship with Sophie Windheimer?
Excuse me for a second. Oh man, I don't know how I'd survive the office without her. Sucks that she's at the reception. I would have loved to have her in the office. I'm back. Yes, please collect your toddler from the bus station.
Okay, now this confirms what we technically already know. Sophie works at the reception, and that means we can now fill in the first 2 words of our deduction here. Let's move on and take a closer look at the other desk here.
The 2 desks on this side look unused.
So, only 2 of 4 desks have people working on them, and one of them is currently also not at that place.
The PC is on, but the person who works at this desk seems to be on a break. They only have a single person answering the hotline right now? That's surprising.
So, must be an important reason why this person is not answering calls at the moment. We can learn a bit more about them by investigating their log-on screen. Looks like a sheep is working this computer, posing for her profile picture here. The last name, Whitlock, so we can add that to our list. And finally, their password clue, me in sexy aliens. Whatever that means, I'm not actually sure we want to know.
I wonder if there are clues to her password. I don't think I have enough information to crack it yet.
And I would agree, so let's keep moving, knock over 2 more bins and approach the crocodile. Before we have a chat though, let's look at the paper here.
It's a list of all the bus drivers. The most busy driver out of all 4 seems to be Petrovich.
Right, that's another name and the information that there's 4 bus drivers. And if we now look at the BearBus route plan here, we can also see their bus network with 4 stations: Hollandaise, Escargot, Bretzel, and the recently opened station in Salsiccia.
Their buses don't go very far.
Apparently, there's not a lot of distance between these 4 stations, which begs the question why the buses are always late. Before we get an answer to that, let's look at the bag on the floor next to the desk here, filled with salami. expensive one at that, paid with West currency, although it is unclear where exactly the border between West and East is at this point.
That's a lot of salami.
The bag is also spotless and in good condition. Perhaps it belongs to the crocodile here.
I'm the only one here in the operating office. Can you imagine? I plan all the bus routes and make sure the buses are on time. Isn't that so cool?
Don't you have an angry customer shouting outside about the buses being late?
Really?
Right, so Operating Officer Crocodile all on his own and not really doing a good job it seems, although he doesn't seem to be particularly aware of the issue. Closer inspection reveals a pair of thick glasses indicating poor eyesight, perhaps the reason why he did not notice that the mug here says Laura and has a paw print on it. Seems like we found the mug thief, although he may not have done so on purpose. Finally, Velcro shoes of course indicate lameness. I think we all know that. Still, let's interrogate him and ask about who hired us.
Do you have any idea who picked me to investigate?
No idea, but I'm so happy you're here. I have a copy of your book, The Early Bird Catches the Criminal. Can you sign it?
And well, I don't think having a fan makes this any easier, but we might want to stay on his good side for now.
Yeah, I guess so.
Woo! Thanks so much, Mr. Duck Detective. I won't ever forget this. This will become a core memory.
Right, so no name or other clues, unless we're here to investigate the mug theft. So how about we head over to the other side of the office, knock over another bin and take a closer look at what seems to be the Employee of the Month poster here. No photo though, whoever made this didn't put in much effort. At least we have a name though, first name Rufus, last name Sedaris. There is also a post-it giving us the name Freddy, and a second one in the photo spot. The creature drawn on it looks bird-like to me with some sort of beak, so Rufus is probably not in this office at the moment.
I'm not sure I'd feel particularly appreciated.
And speaking of a lack of appreciation, let us now head into the side office here.
The dimly lit rooms seem to promise well-kept secrets and rumors.
Right, there's that bear again. Let's have a chat.
How are the detective things going, Mr. Detective?
It's Mr. McQuacklin.
Right. Apologies. Are you planning on staying in my office much longer?
I'll have to inspect the entire premise to do my job correctly.
Well, hurry up.
He seems to be in a hurry to get rid of us. That could be suspicious, or simply because we're disturbing his business. It's too early to tell. What we can tell already, though, is that this is a stern man, the local BearBus branch manager. Interestingly enough, he is also a family man, indicated by baby food stains on his jacket. Let's ask him if he knows who hired us.
Was it you who called me?
No, I never heard of you before.
That's unusual.
It's good you're here, since there has been some unrest.
Okay, no further elaboration, but we can at least get a name now.
What a fancy nameplate. It says Ernst.
And with that, we can piece together another name, last name Ernst, first name Manfred. That one was mentioned by the cat earlier, who complained to us that Manfred refuses to give her a raise.
It's a letter for an application for a promotion to Senior Customer Service Agent, signed by L. Angst.
Very fittingly, we find a letter asking for a promotion here, signed by L. Angst, And well, we know that the other customer service agent's last name is Whitlock, so our cat lady here, that must be Angst, Laura Angst, the only first name starting with an L. This also helps us piece together the crocodile's name. Whitlock is customer service, Sedaris has a beak, and Petrovich is a bus driver. This must therefore then be Fredison. First name? Well, Rufus belongs to Sedaris, and there was a note saying Freddy sucks. Could be from Laura, who also wants him gone from the company, perhaps because of the mug theft, so Freddy seems likely. Before we solve our next deduction though, let's look at the family portrait here.
What are you doing with my family's portrait?
Sorry.
Right, he clearly doesn't like that, but we can investigate it further regardless. The first thing we notice are two little bear cubs, twins by the looks of it. The picture is also nicely framed, so Manfred is showing appreciation for his family, and there is one more thing that catches our eye, a hinge indicating a secret compartment.
Is it normal to have a huge painting of your family in your office?
Now, we obviously can't fiddle with it while Manfred is in the room, so let's speak to him once more. Now that we have a few names pieced together, we can ask others about their opinion on them.
What do you know about Laura Angst?
Oh, she's a fantastic employee. She basically does the work of 5 people.
And yes, he doesn't seem to be willing to give her a raise to reward her for that work. For some reason, it seems like money is very tight around here. Either way, time to solve another deduction now. We already know that Sophie the giraffe works at the reception. We have also learned that the bear is Manfred and that he works as the branch manager. The cat is called Laura and she works in customer service. And finally, this was arguably the most difficult one, Freddy is the crocodile working in the operating office.
Now that I had worked out these names, I was ready to check out the crime scene. Let's see where that lunch got stolen from. Then I could finally talk to my client.
Alright, and with that we can now access 2 doors that were previously closed off. Before going into the kitchen, let's step outside though.
The cold air ruffled my feathers, and I wondered what kind of sorry soul was standing all alone in the rain.
Well, I would say, let's approach and find out.
Hey man, this isn't the bus stop. You'll have to walk south to the central bus station.
What? I'm not here to take a bus.
Okay, not overly willing to engage in conversation, but once again, our investigative powers help us reveal more. For example, that this is Boris, a first name, but at this point the list of options for the last name is limited. Boris is also a handsome buffalo, but hands in his pockets indicate bad manners. For now, he is nothing more than another suspect, and by process of elimination, his last name is clear. Whitlock is customer service, Sedaris' first name is Rufus, so this is Boris Petrovich, one of BearBus's 4 bus drivers. And in his bus, we can find something curious.
Someone left their bag here. Ugh. It's full of dirty gym clothes.
Well, let's see if Boris knows who this bag belongs to.
Do you know anything about this bag?
Oh, it's really strange. Things in it disappeared, and others appeared. Very suspicious.
What are you even talking about? Is this your bag?
No.
Everyone here is being really unhelpful.
Right, so a bag with changing content. Weird, but he doesn't seem to know more.
I'm investigating a case here at BearBus.
Oh, do you mean the lunch that got stolen?
Exactly. You know who called me?
Nah, too busy minding my own business. I don't talk much with the customer service folks.
Alright, and with that we have our case, stolen lunch.
What do you think of Sophie Windheimer?
Man, I wish she'd let me talk to her.
Well, sounds like he likes her, but for some reason she's not willing to speak to him despite his handsomeness.
Do you, like Freddy Fredersen?
He's a pretty funny dude. Loves to rant about detective novels.
Well, that love for detective novels we already learned about firsthand, and with that we can now head back inside and into the kitchen.
As soon as I entered the kitchen, the comforting waft of cheap white toast entered my nostrils. I knew I had to stay strong. This wasn't what I was here for.
Stop eating the icing! Can't you wait a couple hours?
Margaret, if it wasn't for these pants almost bursting, I'd have this for breakfast every day.
Yes, yes, and you can have it and so much more later, when we're done preparing.
Right, so 2 people in here, one named Margaret. Looks like we found our second customer service agent.
Yes, dear?
I'm Eugene McQuacklin, detective, and I need to ask some questions.
A detective? How exciting! What's the most gruesome murder you've seen? How many dead bodies have you encountered?
Here we can really make up a story as we please. We could also just walk away, but where would be the fun in that? So how about the 5 little pigs?
No one died, but I investigated a case once where 5 little pigs robbed a bank. Caught them red-handed and got myself an article in the Goose Times. They called it the piggy bank case.
Did someone get shot?
What? No!
Beaten up?
No.
So, let's investigate Margaret here, a sheep with impeccable, well-groomed hair, or wool in this case, currently in the process of baking something. On her other hand, we also notice a tan line. Seems like Margaret is divorced, just like our duck detective. Let's fill in the blanks. First name Margaret, and the last name is also clear from the profile picture on her computer. This is customer service agent Margaret Whitlock. And that now leaves only one more suspect.
Dishwasher's broken again. What's wrong with these youngsters? Don't know how to treat things with respect? Why would they put the mugs in face up?
Now, we don't need to make it a secret, this penguin here is Rufus Sedaris, and from the looks of it, he is the office janitor. On his toolbox, we also note a sticker identifying him as a sci-fi fan, and the last clue are his worker shoes, indicating a practical person. As a penguin, he also fits the drawing on the Employee of the Month poster, so yes, this is Rufus Sedaris. Filling out all of the suspects' names unlocks the Ducks in a Row achievement, and with that we can also complete our 4th deduction. Margaret the sheep works in customer service, the penguin is Rufus and works as the janitor, and the buffalo is Boris, who works as a bus driver.
Now that I had everyone's name and job, it would be easier to figure out what was going on.
And now that we have all the names gathered, let's find out who of them hired us.
I'm a private detective, and I'm here to investigate a case.
Is that so?
I need to find my client. Do you know who it could be?
Freddy's a bit of a weird one, so I'd imagine you would call detective. Personally, I feel we're doing just fine, and don't need no messing about our business around here.
A first hint pointing towards Freddy, and well, his love for detective novels does support the argument.
Would you say you enjoy Freddy Fredersen's, company?
If anyone needs to learn to respect their elders, it's that moron.
Freddy also does not seem to be well liked. Next to Laura, Rufus here also has it out for him, it seems.
What is your relationship with Margaret Whitlock?
She's a true sweetheart. We have our weekly mahjong evenings.
Margaret and Rufus, meanwhile, seem to be getting along nicely.
Do you get along with Manfred Ernst?
He's a stubborn one. I do respect that.
Right, respect for the boss man. What about the bag then?
Do you know anything about this bag?
Why are you going around pushing bags into people's faces? Ugh, what's that awful smell?
It's, dirty gym clothes.
Right, no answer there. Maybe Margaret can help.
Do you know anyone here who could have hired me?
To be honest, everyone was quite shocked by the lunch theft. And no one told me they've called a detective! I don't know what's going on at all!
So, one more confirmation about the lunch theft, but it doesn't seem like she was the one who called.
Are you getting along with Rufus Sedaris?
You know, the two of us are from the older generation. Which means we understand each other well. He is quite harsh towards the younger ones, though.
Okay, these two definitely enjoy each other's company. How about the rest of the crew?
Can you tell me anything about Laura Angst?
Oh, she's such a hard-working girl. I heard she secretly studies for her online bachelor's during work. You need to keep this a secret, though.
And how about Sophie?
What do you think of Sophie Windheimer?
She doesn't have the easiest life, you know. She just had a terrible breakup with her ex. But don't tell anyone.
Right, Margaret seems to be well informed about her co-workers and not shy about sharing secrets, so maybe she can also tell us who the bag belongs to.
Do you know whose bag this is?
Isn't that Freddy's?
Right, now this is curious, because Freddy has a similar looking bag at his desk. Maybe something got switched up. In any case, since we're here to investigate a lunch theft, let's look at the fridge. Inside, we find Margaret's lunchbox, a sandwich still in it. On the bottom right, that seems to belong to Rufus Sedaris, while the second lunchbox here has a familiar paw on it, and no lunch, but a letter with a sharp claw handprint. It is signed by the Salami Bandit, which unfortunately doesn't really help us figure out who took the lunch. We can only assume that the lunch belonged to Laura. The sharp claws could also hint towards the crocodile Freddy, who did have a bag full of salami at his desk. Probably a good idea to pay him a visit.
So, this must be the crime scene. This note is curious. Gross. I doubt they washed their hands after leaving that greasy handprint.
So, a similar sharp-clawed handprint on the microwave here, perhaps used to heat up the stolen lunch. After knocking over one more bin, let's look at the announce board. A Halloween party is being planned, but unfortunately cancelled, presumably due to budget cuts, which fits our impression of money being very tight at the moment. We also find a red post-it note about the lunch theft, presumably from Laura. Red ink on red paper, the same as the Freddy Sucks note on the Employee of the Month board, confirming that she wrote that one too. Other notes include a call for an unpaid editor and what looks to be Laura and Sophie together, confirming their friendship.
Office parties are a bad idea anyway. They stopped doing them at the precinct after the, jam incident.
And with that, I think we can piece things together. Our client hired us because lunch was stolen, that much we have gathered. We also know that it was Laura's lunch that got stolen, and crucially, if you have paid close attention, she was the only one who did not outright deny calling us, mostly because she was busy taking phone calls. Finally, the culprit is the Salami Bandit, unfortunately no identity yet.
So it was Laura who called me. I needed to discuss the case with her. You're my client? Why didn't you tell me?
Can I put you on hold for a second? What? Well, you should have told me. You're the duck detective.
What are you? I'm a duck. I'm wearing a trench coat.
So, is Freddy getting fired or what?
I'm, working on it.
Ugh. It can't be that hard. Sorry, I'm back. Yes, let me walk you through the booking process.
It was time that I found out what happened with the lunch theft. and what they were planning in the kitchen.
Onto the question of what goes on in the kitchen, here the color-coded words help us out a bit, but paying close attention to Margaret also helps. After all, how could someone so familiar with the private lives of her co-workers forget a birthday, unless she was planning a surprise party for Sophie?
Margaret was planning a surprise birthday party for Sophie. I see. They didn't actually forget her birthday.
Now, while we technically have enough clues to solve our next deduction already, we can gather a bit more info. Most importantly, there seems to be some animosity between Laura and Freddy. Let's find out the reason for it.
Can you tell me more about Freddy Fredersen?
Let me put you on hold while I find the route for you. Freddy? He gets paid more than me. Can you imagine that? What an incompetent waste of office space. Hello, this is Laura again. I checked the bus routes and found that.
And while we have her, let's also get her opinion on the boss.
What do you think about Manfred Ernst?
Oh, he's a great guy. I just wish I'd finally get a raise. Yes, sorry, this is BearBus. Your bus will be 3 hours late.
So, Laura seems to suspect Freddy of the lunch theft, and she's angry at Freddy because he gets paid more. Let's see what the crocodile has to say about his co-workers.
What can you tell me about Margaret Whitlock?
She gets really angry with me when I don't return mugs to the kitchen.
Why don't you just return them?
I do! Just not every day.
What do you know about Manfred Ernst?
I think he likes me. He's the only one who doesn't shout at me.
Do you get along with Boris Petrovich?
He's a chill guy. I take the bus sometimes to go to bouldering conventions, and then we get to chat.
Is this your bag?
Huh? No, mine's over there.
The one with all the salami?
Yeah,
Why do you need so much salami?
that's not mine. It was just there. A really nice surprise.
Right, and I think with that we are ready to solve the culprit. Feel free to pause the video here and try to see if you come up with the same conclusion. In my opinion, the main curiosity at the moment is that Freddy seems entirely oblivious to the fact that a bag full of salami makes him the prime suspect in the lunch theft case, and additionally, he doesn't even know where the salami in his bag came from. At the same time, a bag looking just like the one beside his desk was found in the bus that Freddy reportedly uses himself sometimes, and Boris the bus driver described the bags as changing contents, so I think it's very likely that Freddy just picked up the wrong bag from the bus. Maybe his poor eyesight made it difficult for him to tell them apart. Whoever the real Salami Bandit is must have been very angry about this. After all, Freddy accidentally took their bag, including the expensive salami. So perhaps the Salami Bandit was so angry that they wanted to get Freddy fired by framing him for the lunch theft with the claw handprint, easily transferred onto the letter from the microwave door. And Laura would be all too eager to jump to conclusions and hire us as the private investigator because she's jealous of Freddy for earning more than her and not nearly working as hard.
It was as I thought. Freddy Fredersen was actually being framed. This office wasn't as boring as it looked. When Freddy took the bus back and he went to pick up his luggage, he must have picked up the wrong bag. This happened because there was another bag that's identical to his. The bag that he picked up belonged to the Salami Bandit. This made him a target, and to get rid of Freddy, the Salami Bandit decided to frame him.
Everyone, it's time for you know what? Okay, position. I just texted her, so she should be here in a...
Huh? What's this?
Surprise! Surprise!
No way. This is all for me? Huh? A letter? Oh.
Salami? What a terrible present.
No, you silly idiot! The real present got stolen and switched for Salami!
It's the Salami Bandit!
I saw an awful lot of high-grade salami in Fredrickson's bag.
And now there's no question who the perpetrator is. I've been telling you all along, we can't trust Fredrickson. By the end of the day, he'll be fired. Mark my words.
Seems like a bit of an overreaction to a present being stolen. Or is there more to it?
Alright, and with that we have made it to Act 2 of our little detective adventure. We still have no idea who the Salami Bandit actually is, but with them hijacking Sophie's surprise birthday party, we might be able to gather more clues. To that end, we now need to figure out who gave Sophie which present, what the contents of that message taped in the salami box were, and finally what exactly is going on with all of the salami business in the first place. For now though, let's solve the presents and take a closer look at what Sophie received.
Someone gifted Sophie a plushie. It says, limited edition.
A limited edition plushie, very thoughtful, and with it being a cat, also not too hard to assign.
It's a heart-shaped necklace. Looks tacky.
This then clearly coming from someone who values Sophie very much, I think we have an obvious candidate for this one too. The book, then titled Sexy Aliens Want My Number, an adult sci-fi novel. The author is not too hard to figure out either. Sophie Cyrides, that's just Rufus Sedaris' name spelled backwards, and the penguin is a sci-fi fan, so it tracks. Finally, we also learn that it is a long one, although that doesn't really help us much at the moment.
Oh God. What did I just read?
Finally then, let's take a closer look at the salami gift, particularly the note attached to it. It reads, "Buongiorno everyone," so it appears to be addressed to the entire office, not just Sophie, which is curious. Quite unbelievable, I entered the office really easily, lol, sayonara edgelords. Despite sounding cocky, this message makes little sense, and of course it is signed with a salami, so we know it comes from our culprit.
I wonder what the purpose of that letter is.
What do they want to tell us with it? Well, we'll figure that out soon enough. For now, let's speak to the people in the room.
Do you think she liked my present? I mean, now she's crying, but I think I saw a sparkle in her eyes when she opened mine. I should really get back to work.
Now, this confirms that Laura was one of the gift givers and actually allows us to partially solve this deduction already. The gifts were obviously for Sophie, and we know that the book was given to her by Rufus, and we also know that Laura gave something, and that must have been the cat plushie, which leaves us with the necklace and the question what got stolen and replaced with salami. To help us answer that question, let's present Laura with the letter.
Can you tell me something about this letter?
Sophie won't even talk to me about it. I don't know what to do.
Right, that doesn't help us much. Let's talk to the initiator of this surprise party then.
That's not nice at all. Who messes with someone's birthday?
Nothing more we can get out of her, so up next, it's the birthday girl. And of course, we will comfort her. Maybe that helps.
It'll be okay. You have the duck detective here to figure everything out.
What can you possibly do? Leave me alone.
Unfortunately, we won't be able to do so until we have asked a few more questions. Let's begin with the letter.
So, do you have an idea who would have hired me?
I have other things on my mind right now.
Understandably, she's too upset to talk about it. Maybe her friends are an easier topic.
What can you tell me about Laura Angst?
Do you really have to interrogate me right now? Well, Laura needs to chill out. I do love her, but if she keeps living like this, she'll have a heart attack by 23.
Nothing we didn't already notice. So how about Boris? There's clearly something there.
What kind of a person is Boris Petrovich?
That's the last thing I want to think about right now. I honestly don't know what I saw in him. I guess he's kind of good looking.
Right, sounds like the two may have dated in the past. Let's move on to Margaret then.
How are you getting on with Margaret Whitlock?
Oh, she's sweet and all, but she can't keep her mouth shut. She goes around the office telling everyone about my private life.
And well, we already had first-hand experience with that. Moving on, let us now step outside and speak to Rufus.
So, what happens to the cake now?
He does not seem to be overly concerned by what happened. That's curious. Let's ask him about the note then.
What do you think about this letter?
People don't know how to write letters by hand anymore. What's with the weird line breaks?
Sounds like he did not write it, but he noticed something that we will follow up on in a bit. For now, let's check in with Freddy.
They really think I've done it! Duck Detective, you have to help me! You know it wasn't me, right?
Well, to be honest, that bag full of salami does make it very easy for the others to suspect him.
Did you not think it was strange that your bag was full of salami?
I don't know. I thought someone gave me a salami surprise. I'll eat salami sandwiches for breakfast, lunch, and dinner from now on.
Right, either he's playing a fantastic bluff, or, what's more likely, he's truly innocent. At the moment, I'm leaning towards the latter, but unfortunately for Freddy, not everyone seems to think that way.
I'm guessing you're ready to present legal evidence of Frederson's misconducts.
It wasn't Frederson.
Everything is pointing towards him.
I will present the true culprit soon enough.
Well, I don't really care how long it takes you. This will be Frederson's last day.
Manfred here still hell-bent on getting rid of Freddy. That's curious. Let's present him with the letter.
Do you know anything about this letter?
Well, it's obviously a cheap prank by Frederson. Only he would find this funny.
The answer here then, no surprise. He's got his mind made up, it seems.
What can you tell me about Boris Petrovich?
He's not the most reliable worker. But it's difficult finding replacements nowadays.
Okay, unreliable. Another curious answer. After all, we learned earlier that Boris was the busiest of the 4 bus drivers.
What is Rufus Sedaris like?
Not the greatest janitor, but he came with the building.
So, all in all, Manfred doesn't really seem to appreciate any of his staff that much. As payback, we can now unlock another achievement by knocking over the bin in his office, completing Rage Uncaged. Afterwards, we can head back outside and have another chat with Boris at the bus depot.
Maybe it was too romantic. Did Sophie ask about me?
Now, she didn't necessarily ask, but we did speak about him briefly.
She might have mentioned you.
Did she really? I bet my present will blow her away.
This now more or less confirms who our third gift giver was. Before we lock that in, let's ask him about Rufus.
What do you know about Rufus Sedaris?
I don't think he likes me very much, to be honest. But then, doesn't feel like he likes anyone at this office. Except for Margaret, I guess. Do you think they have a thing going on?
I don't work here.
I thought you were a detective.
Alright, another potential love story between Rufus and Margaret. Let's keep that in mind. For now, we can solve the presents deduction. I think it is pretty clear at this point that the heart-shaped necklace was a gift from Boris. Now, regarding the question of what was stolen, well, no one else except for the 3 names listed above mentioned anything about a gift. Plushie, necklace, book and letter were also very much still there, the cake too on the kitchen table, so that makes it very likely that actually nothing was stolen, and that the salami was just added to the existing presents.
So, nothing got stolen after all. It seemed that the salami present was intentional.
Now that means whoever put them there must have had a reason for it. We can find the last clue to solve the next deduction on the customs poster here, detailing customs procedures for goods entering from the West. On the list of allowed goods, personal items worth less than 500 Schmark, while on the list of prohibited goods we have weapons, no surprise there I think, but also plants, books not in the interest of the eastern states, more than 10 trombones, meat and potatoes. Finally, at the bottom of the poster, we see a reference to Bretzel. Seems like that is the station where this BearBus branch is located at.
What do they have against potatoes?
And with that, we have our next clue to solve the message deduction, but before we do, let's take another closer look at it. Rufus mentioned the weird line breaks, and in addition we can take note of the first letter in each word being underlined, revealing a secret message: be quiet or else. Seems like the nonsensical letter was in fact addressed to Sophie, threatening her to keep quiet. The only question is about what. In any case, the deduction is now easily solved. Sophie received a silly letter that contained a hidden scary message.
Sophie was receiving threats. I needed to find out why.
And that question now leads us back inside the offices, where we can take a closer look at the desks of Laura and Margaret.
This folder says Manual for CS Agents. How and when to create vouchers correctly. I'm falling asleep just reading the title.
Okay, a manual on creating vouchers, nothing to do with Salami. Maybe we can find more on her computer. First of all, we notice that Laura seems to be a complainer, Freddy's uncleanliness clearly getting on her nerves, but it doesn't reveal more about the case. She also has an active chat with Sophie, but we already know that the two are friends. In this conversation, they're making fun of that Sexy Aliens book and give us a clue we no longer need. We already figured out that Rufus was the author.
You definitely don't want to be Laura's enemy.
That Sexy Aliens book will come in handy though, as we now approach Margaret's desk. If you recall, the clue to her password was me in Sexy Aliens. Now the book here has a protagonist, Captain Brightbeak, but that is clearly Rufus's self-insert. The role of Margaret is one of the aliens, of course as the most beautiful one of them, the one with purple eyes. This also very heavily supports Boris's suspicion that the two might have something going on, but for now we can enter purple-eyed alien as the password to gain access.
I cracked it. Let's see what secret she has on her computer.
Now, immediately on the right here, we notice that Margaret seems to be chatting with a romantic interest called Cutie, telling them to delete everything. That is very curious and definitely raises our suspicion, and also implicates Rufus if the two are indeed romantically involved. We also find some files here that don't really help us in any way. On the left, meanwhile, a vacation website is opened, so Margaret was perhaps planning a getaway. One last bit that the game does not present as a clue, Margaret also has some BearBus vouchers up on her screen, codes that customer service agents can apparently use to reimburse dissatisfied customers. Considering the reported delays, that probably happens frequently.
Who is this person she's messaging?
Well, that person is most likely Rufus, And with that, we can now piece together another piece of the puzzle. Once again, I invite you to pause here and see if you can come up with the solution yourself. First of all, we want to revisit the customs poster that reveals that we find ourselves in Bretzel. If we bring up the bus route map here, that means we are here. From the bag of salami found near Freddy's desk, we also know that they were paid with West currency, and the only place west of Bretzel is Salsiccia, the bus stop that was opened a mere month ago and is already suffering from heavy delays. Finally, the customs poster explicitly tells us that meat is on the list of goods that are prohibited from entering from the west, so I think this is what's going on here. Salamis are being illegally imported from Salsiccia. Why and by whom? Well, that remains to be seen.
That explains all the high-grade salami. I just needed to find out who was behind this. The mystery of the Salami Bandit was slowly getting unraveled. Western goods are prohibited from entering and being sold in the East. This is why the Salami Bandit decided to make a business out of buying high-grade salami in the West, smuggling it to the East, and selling it at a high profit. Also, for some reason, Sophie received a letter from the Salami Bandit that had a hidden, threatening message. This was serious. I had to question all of the employees. Thanks for coming, everyone. Well, everyone except for Sophie. Where is she?
Slacking off, playing on her computer phone, like usual.
She's having problems with her family. She was at her desk and said she needed a moment.
I will start then regardless. I have made my deductions and drawn some serious conclusions.
Oh, finally! Is Freddy getting fired then?
Who is the murderer?
What? No one died!
I'm getting framed! I'm telling you!
What a load of baloney.
He is right, actually. He is getting framed.
What? Why would anyone bother?
Ah, that is the question, isn't it? Why would anyone bother?
Get to the point.
It's through my observations that I uncovered a conspiracy.
This is ridiculous! Why are we still listening to a random duck that waddled into this office? I'm leaving.
I'm a certified private investigator and...
It's okay. Just tell us what you know.
Salami is being smuggled from Salsiccia using your very own buses.
Huh? What's going on?
Okay, this is going too far. I really have more important things to do.
Now that is really scandalous. Does that mean we're losing our jobs?
Maybe.
Ah!
Listen, everybody! It's really important that no one leaves the premises.
I need to get back to work.
Oh, everybody's leaving?
I'm still here, Mr. Duck Detective.
Yeah.
Right, the situation gets serious now, but the BearBus staff seems increasingly annoyed by our progress, which does not exactly help alleviate our suspicions towards a good number of the people working here. The only exception seems to be Freddy, who is still very excited by everything.
This is getting intense, isn't it? Maybe you could need a little help? You seem lonely. I could be your assistant. What do you want me to do? Decipher messages? Talk someone into telling us the truth? Follow people around? I'm pretty good at that.
Just stay here.
Like this?
Yup, you're doing great.
Right, now easy to overlook but a crucial bit of intel. On the table here, there's a phone.
Someone forgot their phone.
Taking a closer look at it, we see that a chat is open with someone named KTS Enjoyer, a reference to a band it seems, and we know that Sophie is a K-pop fan, so chances are this is her. A user named Almost Dead then asks about the other person's parents still being angry at her. That doesn't help us much at the moment, while the aforementioned KTS Enjoyer, possibly Sophie, then proceeds to send several nonsensical messages in a row in the span of just a few minutes, with all of this happening today.
This is curious. Why would she write like this?
Interesting question. Let's ask Margaret about the situation as we now leave the kitchen.
Hire me at this age. Oh, maybe I can be a real estate agent. I always wanted to be a rich real estate agent.
Right, she seems emotionally overwhelmed by everything. Let's head outside once more and see what's going on there. Interestingly, we don't find Boris, but Manfred.
It's not really a detective's job to spin crazy conspiracy theories, is it?
Sometimes the truth is pretty crazy.
Seems a bit cheap.
Right, Manfred sounds entirely fed up by our presence, which is weird considering we have just announced that his bus branch is being used to smuggle goods. Seems to me like he should be a bit more invested in finding the culprit. Now, maybe he still believes it's Freddy, so good thing we can now access his computer, although that mostly reveals his undying love for detective work. Freddy has not only looked up the Duck Detective's online profile, but is also browsing detective novels, one about a murder, the other about a kidnapping.
Someone is clearly obsessed with detectives.
Now, with Manfred currently outside, this presents a unique opportunity to revisit that suspicious portrait in his office. First of all, though, we are being confronted by Rufus.
Why would Laura recruit you to deal with a theft? Aren't there any other detectives who are actually qualified for the job?
I've been doing very well so far, if I do say so myself. The truth will be revealed in the end.
Huh?
Now, Rufus here is definitely not helping his case either, but for now, let's see what's behind that painting of Manfred's family.
Finally, Manfred is out of his office. Time to see what's behind his precious family portrait.
Alright, and at this point we are now facing what is arguably the hardest puzzle in the entire game, cracking the safe's code. Now we have a clue here, CS00BD. At first, that doesn't seem like much, but we have seen the CS acronym a few times now, short for customer service. And what if the 00 is not actually a 0, but a 00, an acronym that we have seen as a reference to another job title, Operating Officer. And following that pattern, BD, that must then stand for Bus Driver. Now, how does any of this translate into numbers? Well, perhaps in the most literal sense, the number of people employed in these roles. Despite the fact that there are 4 desks, we know that there are currently only 2 customer service agents working here, Laura and Margaret. Freddy was very proud to tell us that he is the branch's sole operating officer, and there are 4 bus drivers, even though we have only met Boris. So let's enter 214 and see what happens.
I did it! Oh, I always wanted to open a ridiculously big safe. Let's see what secrets he has in here.
Right, now inside the safe here we find 2 letters, one in which Manfred writes to his wife Ingrid, telling her that things are looking up and promising a getaway to Hollandaise. The other letter is clearly written in a different handwriting, so it must come from someone else. That someone else also makes demands, becoming Employee of the Month, a TV in their room, and most importantly, Manfred keeping quiet about the thing. Very similar wording here, including the threat that something might happen to Manfred if he snitches. Could we have just found our perpetrator? Well, maybe. Before we rush to a conclusion though, let's grab the server room key.
Awful lot of security for a branch manager of a bus company. Wait, this keychain. Here it is. The key for the server room.
Now, the server room wasn't actually mentioned before yet, but maybe you noticed it. That other door back at the very beginning when we entered, to the right of Sophie's reception desk. And with the key in hand, that is where we will now go, only to find a concerned Boris and Laura in the room.
She left? Just like this? Maybe she's at home. Should I look for her?
So, Sophie seems to be gone, and understandably Boris is very concerned.
Sophie left! And she left a note on the desk.
Well, sounds like we should check out that note then. It's a short one in which Sophie announces that she has quit. Furthermore, she says that people will never see her again, which is strange considering how she seems to be friends with at least Laura outside of the office too. Nonetheless, the note is signed by Sophie Windheimer, although if you have paid close attention, you'll notice something curious about that too.
What a dramatic turn. I should keep this as evidence.
For now, we can pocket the note and ask Laura and Boris about it.
This is the note Sophie left. Can you tell me more about it?
It doesn't make sense at all that she'd just suddenly leave. She definitely needs the money. And she would have told me. I'm her friend.
Yeah, that definitely seems curious. Let's see what Boris has to say.
Did you read Sophie's letter?
I did. Something's off. Something's different.
Well, we'll figure out what that is in just a second. For now, there's a phone here on the floor.
Let's see. The last dialed number on this phone is 03051777.
Now, that number doesn't necessarily ring a bell, but maybe we can find some more info on Sophie's computer, thankfully unlocked. We notice that she has been chatting with an unknown number, threatening to tell everything, while the recipient of her message simply tells her not to. All further communication was then blocked by Sophie. She has apparently also been posting about her co-workers forgetting her birthday on the internet, likely before the surprise party was revealed. Her wish for a handwritten card seems to indicate high expectations. Not sure if I agree with that, but let's add it to the list of clues.
Can't believe she complained about this online.
And we almost have enough here to solve the situation. Let's quickly head back into the office and show Sophie's note to Margaret.
What do you think of this note?
It's no surprise she's left, is it? Would you want to work with someone you've dated in the past?
This now confirms that Sophie was dating someone from the office. Clearly, that must have been Boris. And while we now have all the clues collected, let's also head outside and show Sophie's note to Manfred.
Have you seen Sophie's resignation?
No. I can't say it comes as a surprise. She never particularly enjoyed her job. It's difficult finding replacements nowadays, though.
He seems stoic as ever, but I think we are ready for the grand finale now. Once again, feel free to pause and see if you can crack the case. Now, regarding Sophie's whereabouts, we want to take note of a fatal spelling error. Sophie's last name is Windheimer, spelled with a T. The I quit note, however, has it spelled with a DT. Clearly, this note was not written by Sophie. The note also uses the exact same ink and paper as the Salami Bandit's letter threatening Sophie. In combination with the phrase, "You'll never see me again," this can only mean something bad has happened to Sophie. This would also explain her nonsensical messages to Laura, who the game is kind enough to reveal as the phone's owner here. Maybe those were hastily typed in distress. We also just learned that the last number called by the phone we found near the reception was this one here, the hotline the local police uses to report suspicious customs activity. And, well, that phone near the reception therefore very likely belongs to Sophie, who just told this unknown number here that she would tell everything. So Sophie must have had some knowledge about the salami smuggling, threatened to spill the beans, was told to keep quiet in this coded message, but tried to call the police anyway. So I would consider it very likely that the Salami Bandit made their threat come true and kidnapped Sophie.
Sophie got kidnapped. There must be more to this.
So, our story takes a dark turn now. Not only do we now need to find where Sophie is, but we still haven't figured out who the Salami Bandit is. Maybe that server room has the answers we're looking for.
Let's see what's hidden in here.
What are you doing?
Secret detective business. The electrical sparks and blinking lights created a claustrophobic atmosphere. I definitely felt that I wasn't supposed to be here.
Alright, a dimly lit room. The first thing we notice are some boxes on the floor.
What's he keeping in all these boxes?
Sadly, we cannot open them to check for salami, but we can inspect the electrical wiring here, which looks rather adventurous.
I don't think it's meant to do this.
In the back of the room, then, someone has arranged a little cozy corner for themselves, not really typical of a workplace.
Honestly, this is nicer than my apartment.
And indeed, this place looks almost homely. We've got a small fridge, a TV, and even some bottles that may not necessarily contain water. Someone has been living comfortably here. Time for our duck detective to reflect a little on his journey so far with the mirror over here. This allows us to glean beyond our protagonist's facade. Despite our progress on this case, he is still in very poor shape. So solving the case of the Salami Bandit would probably serve him well, both financially and in regards to his self-esteem.
Has that been there the whole day?
Now finally we come across a computer, and this one is curious. It looks like someone is using it to sell BearBus vouchers on the internet. And not only that, they're also selling them for less than the vouchers are actually worth. In addition, this user also seems to have access to the building's CCTV cameras, this one pointed at the buses outside. And finally, whoever uses this computer is also chatting with someone named Lisa, their daughter apparently, who is asked to help delete their online selling history. So someone is trying to cover their tracks and doesn't exactly know how to.
What's up with these BearBus vouchers on eBay?
And well, I think with that we can now put the last few clues together here. Now, this part of the case is a bit of a curveball, because it does not directly have anything to do with the salami smuggling. Instead, we need to take note of the first instance where vouchers appeared earlier on the computer of Margaret. Margaret also wrote to her cutie, likely Rufus, to delete everything, the exact thing the user on this computer asked for help with. Another sign pointing towards Rufus is the room itself. Note the sci-fi books on the shelf and table here, identical to the one that was gifted to Sophie. In addition, there are tools on the table, fitting for a janitor. And not only that, the room also has a TV in it, like I said earlier, very unusual for a workplace. However, a TV is exactly what was requested in that note that Manfred had in his safe, alongside the request to be made Employee of the Month. And well, we saw the poster, as half-heartedly as it may be, it clearly says Rufus Sedaris. So I think the case is clear. Rufus wrote that letter to blackmail Manfred, to make Manfred stay quiet about Rufus illegally selling BearBus vouchers. Where does the janitor get them from? Well, from Margaret, of course, who has easy access as a customer service agent and seems to be romantically involved with the penguin.
So this is what Rufus and Margaret were doing with the vouchers. It might be illegal, but this wasn't what I was here for. I needed to catch the Salami Bandit. I quickly needed to find out where Sophie was being kept. I also couldn't let the Salami Bandit get away with this. It was finally time to find out who was behind everything.
Right, now 2 big questions remain. Where is Sophie and who is the Salami Bandit? Interestingly, Rufus being guilty of selling vouchers actually makes him less likely of also being the Salami Bandit. Nonetheless, he is not too happy to see us snoop around in the server room.
What are you doing in there? Snooping around, are we? That room is strictly off limits. I even put up posters.
This is for important detective work.
Huh?
Too little too late though, we're on a roll and no one can stop us. Now, regarding Sophie's whereabouts, whoever kidnapped her is still on the premises. After all, no one except for Sophie has disappeared. That means Sophie must still be somewhere around here too. That also rules out that she's on a trip or in a fight, and she also won't fit in a box and neither in, on or under a cake, so she's got to be in a bus.
Oh my God! That's where she is being kept! It's important that I stayed calm now. I couldn't alert the culprit, or all of this will have been for nothing. I needed to first figure out who is behind everything, so I could confront them.
Now, who is the Salami Bandit? Well, this one's actually pretty easy at this point. The fake I quit note, the threatening coded message to Sophie, and the message on Laura's stolen lunch were clearly all written by the same person. And there is a 4th note using the exact same paper and ink that we found in Manfred's safe, the letter that he wrote to his wife. This would also explain why Manfred pushes so hard for Freddy to be the culprit and wants him gone. After all, the crocodile presents the perfect fall guy. On top of that, we have noticed several indicators of the BearBus branch being in financial trouble, so we have a clear motive there. Finally, this also explains why Manfred was outside by the buses. He was Sophie's kidnapper and wants to keep a close eye on things. Using the building's CCTV cameras, Rufus likely noticed the salamis being smuggled at some point and used this info to blackmail Manfred into allowing Rufus's own little operation.
Manfred is the Salami Bandit. That makes a lot of sense. Ironic that his handwritten note meant to frame Fredersen ended up incriminating Manfred instead. Something was missing here. Who else was involved with this? I had collected everything I needed. I just had to organize my thoughts.
So let's solve the dirty work. We know that Manfred is the Salami Bandit, illegally importing salami from the west via buses, and who would be better suited to help him organize all of this than the one driving the buses, Boris. After all, Rufus and Margaret are occupied with their own little scheme, Freddy seems oblivious to everything, and Laura is way too busy for any of this. An additional tiny little detail, on the list with names of all bus drivers, Boris was listed as the busiest, but Manfred still called him unreliable, perhaps because he thinks Boris responsible for the bag mix-up that resulted in Freddy accidentally taking the latest salami haul.
The Salami Bandit wasn't working alone. It made sense for the bus driver to be involved.
Finally, we have learned from Margaret that Boris and Sophie used to date, which is why Sophie was involved as another accomplice. She would have had the best odds of convincing Boris to help with the scheme, and like I mentioned before, all other people working in the office can be ruled out for various other reasons. In addition, this also explains why Sophie was even able to threaten to snitch about the operation, and why she ended up trying to call the police hotline. She had to be directly involved as the link between Manfred and Boris.
I couldn't believe Sophie managed to talk Boris into this. Aha! I had it all figured out now. It was time that I confront the culprits. But first, I had to free Sophie.
Oh.
Sophie! What happened?
What's going on out here?
Why is everyone yelling?
This looks dramatic.
It's kind of a long story.
And guess who deduced said long story? The one and only Duck Detective.
Read the room.
This is how everything went down. The Britzel BearBus branch was suffering losses and had their budget cut as a result. Manfred, worried about the financial stability of his family, felt himself backed into a corner. This is when he became the Salami Bandit. He made his grand plan of salami smuggling and realized he couldn't do this alone. He recruited Boris, since it would be easiest for the bus driver to load and unload the wares discreetly. The bus would go through a customs check at the Salsiccia bus station first. And then Boris would take a detour to get the salami and load it onto the bus. This is why the buses always had a huge delay. It wouldn't be easy to talk Boris into crime, so Manfred convinced Sophie to join the team. Boris's obsession with her would make it easy for her to manipulate him into helping with their plan. Everything was going well until the Duck Detective, that's me, infiltrated the office. Freddy was meant to be the scapegoat for the crime, but I'm not fooled that easily. Sophie began getting cold feet and ultimately wanted to confess to the police. Manfred couldn't have this, so he interfered. In an outburst of panic, he abducted her and hid her in the luggage compartment of one of the buses. And this is why Manfred stole Laura's lunch!
What?
Everything is figured out, but who is truly guilty? Manfred, Sophie, and Boris are all involved in the smuggling. Who should get arrested for their crimes? Manfred was the mastermind behind everything. Should Manfred get arrested?
So now we get to make a decision here at the end of the game, who to arrest. We start with Manfred, and I think as the one who orchestrated everything and misused his power over the branch, he clearly deserves punishment, especially since he was willing to drag others into his scheme.
He is the reason this all started in the first place. Of course he should be arrested. What about Sophie? Without her, the smuggling wouldn't have been possible. She manipulated poor Boris into taking the salami across the border. Should Sophie get arrested?
Now, Sophie is perhaps not quite as clear of a case, especially since she showed good intentions in the end and wanted to inform the police. Nonetheless, she manipulated Boris into a crime he never fully understood, willingly accepting the bus driver breaking the law. I think that needs to have consequences.
What she did was clearly illegal. She needs to face the consequences. Boris was at the end of the chain. Had he refused to take the Salami on board, the plan would have not worked out. Should Boris get arrested?
Finally, Boris, who probably never saw entirely through what he was doing. However, he was very much aware of the fact that importing salamis in his buses was illegal and still never refused. So, in the end, he broke the law and was arguably the most important of the three figures, so he gets arrested too.
He might have not realized what was going on entirely, but that doesn't mean he's not liable for engaging in the smuggling. All right, I've made up my mind. I will report to the state police. Manfred! Sophie! Boris!
And I do it again! Anything to secure my family's well-being.
I'm not sure grand-scale salami smuggling was necessary for that.
How else was I going to cope with all the budget cuts? If anyone actually worked in this office, we wouldn't have such terrible performance in the first place!
Hey! I work!
Yes, and then you keep asking for promotions. How am I going to give anyone a promotion if we have people baking cakes during working hours? And while we're at it, Rufus! How dare you embezzle money from the company and then threaten me?
That's... Rufus said we're only doing that until his book takes off. And then I'll play the lead alien in the movie adaptation.
Look who's going to jail now, Manfred. Not me, that's for sure.
I stand by what I said. I regret nothing.
What is this? If I had known that calling the duck detective would result in this, I would have never done it. You were supposed to find out who stole my lunch, not accuse my best friend of smuggling.
I knew this was a bad idea from the beginning. Why did Boris have to lose the bag? My God, he is such an idiot!
I had no idea it was that important. Why didn't anyone tell me about the plan? You said your cousin was ill, and the only thing that would make her happy was the salsiccia salamis.
I should have known. If you're stupid enough to believe that, then you're also too stupid to bring a couple sausages across the border.
Wow, you really did quack the case, Mr. Duck Detective. You're just as cool as I imagined.
Not now, Fedderson. The truth. The truth is an ugly mistress. But it is my duty to throw bread to the fine beak of Lady Justice.
And there we are. We now get to see how others decided who to arrest. Let me know in the comments how you would have decided. My decision to arrest them all was mainly done for the sake of full completion. I think it's a bit sad that Rufus and Margaret actually end up getting away. After all, their bus voucher scheme only further intensified the branch's financial struggles, which may have led to Manfred and his accomplices keeping up their smuggling gig for even longer. I also personally believe that there is a bit of a missed opportunity to have Freddy be the culprit after all. Having him revealed as the big mastermind in the end would have put a nice spin on the entire story, I think. But overall, I have to say, I really enjoyed my time with this game. The voice acting is surprisingly good for such a small project, and at times the game really makes you think. I'll be the first to admit that during my first playthrough I did not solve the cases that easily, especially those later on. In hindsight, it may have been easy to connect the dots, but if you play it yourself, there are so many little details you can overlook, and I'd be very interested to hear whether you came to the same conclusions watching the video or who you suspected behind it all. Also, even though the credits are already rolling here, don't turn off just yet. There is another small scene at the end. I can, however, already say that I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. As always, if you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then you can of course go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or become a channel member or Patreon supporter. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.
Oh, crap. I completely forgot to collect my payment from Laura. Everybody already went home. How am I going to pay for the bus? Guess I'm walking home.
Ahem. Need a ride? I just booked this one. It's been such a long day after all.
No, thank you.
Come on, it'll be fun! Plus, you must be tired after all the detective work.
I really don't.
Please?
Yeah, fine.
Great! Now I finally have time to tell you all about my ideas for your social media.
Please don't.
I could get you tons of publicity.
No.
And imagine, we can team up.
Absolutely not.
And I can be your sidekick.